Meeting in Paris. A short romantic story. Written by Misha Quinn. All rights reserved. Copyright 2023. Meeting in Paris. Natalia was walking along the banks of the Seine in evening Paris. The smells of onion soup, baguettes, and wine wafted toward her. All this abundance of aromas was blowing in the warm, light summer breeze from the riverfront into the distance, darkness, and night. In the calm, dark water of the river, the lights of the lamps and light garlands hung on the walls and balconies of the embankment were reflected, shimmering slightly. But Natalia was walking along the Seine embankment, clutching her small handbag tightly and wrapped in a warm sweater as if it were winter outside. The young woman was depressed and confused about what had happened to her in the morning that had started out so well. Today Natalia met the man of her life. She knew at first sight that this man, who suddenly appeared on her way to work, was her destiny. Yes, she had met him and immediately lost him. What an irony of fate! The young woman, who had just recently broken up with her fiancé, could not believe this morning that she would decide in the afternoon that she had found love again. But that's how it is sometimes in life, one moment, and you already have a new life. Or, rather, a new perspective on your life. Natalia was not spoiled by men's attention because she was not beautiful. The young woman was, instead, from the category of so-called interesting women, those who do not attract men at first sight but attract and hold the attention of the interlocutor at second sight, when a man communicates and understands that he cannot stop speaking with a new acquaintance, so she understands him from the first word. Yes, Natalia had a unique ability to understand male interlocutors. When talking to a man she was interested in, she would look him straight in the eye. And that was it. The man was gone. The pupils of the woman's eyes naturally dilated, making her look and whole image much more attractive in the eyes of her male interlocutor than the cold beauty of recognized beauties, which many had to admire only from a distance. Natalia knew how to use this trick and thought she could attract any man she wanted. But today, she was defeated. The morning of the day began as Natalia, who had recently arrived in Paris and was rushing to work at a café in the Montmartre district, was in such a hurry to get to work that her bicycle almost crashed into a man who was standing on the observation deck of one street in the district, looking down on Paris. The woman cried out in surprise and dropped the handlebars from her hands. The bicycle rumbled and fell onto the stones of the old cobblestone street. The few passers-by turned around, but when they saw that the woman was all right, they calmly continued their walk down the street. Natalia did not understand how the man picked her up, preventing her from falling after the bicycle onto the stones of the sidewalk. The woman cried out, throwing back the long hair that had covered her face when the bicycle stopped abruptly, looked into the eyes of the stranger who stood before her, legs spread wide and holding her firmly by the forearms. Natalia now poorly remembered how she had seen him in the morning. She remembered his eyes were as blue as the sea or the clear sky. His pupils seemed bottomless and black as tar. His long black eyelashes cast shadows from the morning sun on his high cheekbones, covered with day-old stubble. Natalia lowered her eyes below the man's cheekbones and noticed that he, still holding her in his arms, almost embracing her, was very strong. His square shoulders were noticeably wider than her shoulders, or it was her that squirmed from his embracing her. Natalia did not know what to do with the smell of this stranger, so sharp was the scent of expensive cologne, cigars, and his body, heated by a quick move toward her. Cigars? Nobody smokes cigars anymore. The thought flashed through Natalia's mind. However, I should thank him, so why don't I? The woman, smiling embarrassedly and still not trying to keep the man's hands off her, still could not say a word. A kind of oblivion enveloped her. She enjoyed the smell of this man, the sight of his thick hair and the unbuttoned collar of his summer shirt. She could feel the steely muscles of his arms gripping her forearms tightly. He was so close to her, handsome, and a stranger. And this was already dangerous. Natalia wasn't ready to start a new relationship before she'd had time to get over her old ones. The man realized that his unfamiliar ward was firmly on her feet and no longer thought of falling, so he let go first of her hand and then of the other. They stood like that in front of each other, not knowing what to say. The silence was broken by a man. He said, "Hey, now you will not fall anymore." The stranger's thick baritone resonated pleasantly in Natalia's chest. She answered, looking again into his striking blue eyes. "Hi, thank you, now I won't fall down, thank you." Natalia still could not take her eyes off his face. Then, suddenly, slowly, without taking his eyes from hers, the man leaned toward her, put his hands behind her back as if to keep from hugging her again, and whispered in a conspiratorial tone, "Well, now you can go on your way. Bye." With these words, smiling slyly, he stepped aside, making way for Natalia. Then the stranger picked up the bicycle and gently handed its handlebars to Natalia. Then, with a discreet touch on the young woman's shoulder, he added, "Have a good trip, my dear." Natalia stood there with her mouth open in surprise. Usually, she took the initiative in conversation with men, but here she could not utter a word. What was it that fascinated her so much? The scent? The blue eyes? A male figure? But there were plenty of men like that, as many as she liked. Why was she so attracted to this one that she was speechless? Natalia stood holding her bicycle while the man moved away from her down the stone-paved street of this old neighborhood of Paris. She would never see him again and never feel that attraction, which cannot be explained by anything rational. The man never turned around. Not once. At least, not while Natalia stood looking after him. The young woman sighed, turned the other way, and, not taking any more chances to get on her bike, walked up the street to her cafe, leading her bike beside her. The whole day passed like a fog. Finally, in the evening, Natalia promised her friends that she would take them on a riverboat on the night of the Seine and celebrate their wedding anniversary. Yes, her friends were much luckier in their personal lives than she was. They met and have not parted since that day. They had got married a year ago, and now their family was expecting a new addition. Her friend was 3 months pregnant. Natalia had long ago accepted her friend's invitation to spend the evening with them on the riverboat, so now, despite her depressed and confused mood at the morning meeting with a stranger, she could not refuse them and was now walking to the pier, from which the riverboat was leaving. Friends, a married couple and their buddies and girlfriends, were waiting for Natalia at the riverboat pier. A sailor, or steward, was already checking the entrance tickets and stepping carefully down the rickety wooden gangway with a railing on each side. People were entering the ship, talking excitedly and joyfully. "Hurry! We're almost sailing," her friend shouted to Natalia, waving her hand invitingly with the tickets. Natalia, aroused, ran towards the ship. The windows of the vast cabin invitingly glowed with the orange lights of the table lamps set on the restaurant tables. After hugging her friend and exchanging light, cheek-to-cheek kisses with their mutual friends, Natalia took the ship ticket from her friend's hand. Suddenly, her hand was covered by the warm palm of a man. Natalia smelled the same scent of a mixture of expensive cologne and cigars. The woman froze. Her whole being was permeated with an inexpressible feeling of anticipation of happiness. It's him. It's him. He's here. The thoughts raced through her head, and her heart raced as if she were riding a bicycle again. Now Natalia knew what she had to do. She would no longer tremble under his gaze, no, at least not directly. Now she would stare into his eyes without looking away and listen to him, listen to whatever he had to say to her. The riverboat set out on its usual journey along the evening Seine. Its sides were decorated with garlands of colorful lights, and the lights of table lamps in gold lampshades still shone invitingly in the restaurant cabin. Couples of happy people sat at the tables of the ship's restaurant and looked into each other's eyes. Among them was a couple who had just recognized each other, Natalia and the man of her life. The end.